A new festival is here. Hello guys and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode we're talking about a water and a wind festival. It's kind of interesting. It is similar to the 4 attribute festival, but with a smaller amount of decks that are playable. Now I have already kind of talked about, at least on stream, some of the ban lists and stuff like that. And I just kind of wanted to go over it and show you 2 decks that you could potentially play if you wanted to. Now, first and foremost, I will say every single one of the loner decks are pretty good. Genuinely. Ice Barrier is pretty interesting. It's basically just like a combo deck that ends on like a stun board, basically. So it's you know, it does stuff. It's also pretty simple. Then we have the Speedroid deck, which is okay. It's kind of lackluster in terms of like, mostly like its starters. It's kind of like built weird, and because of the fact that there aren't as many staples, like there's no Maxi, there's no Ash, there's no Nibiru and stuff like that. And like a Droll kind of sucks as well. It's not the greatest, but overall it's still a decent deck. And then of course we have Goaty, which is also fairly decent. All of these decks are pretty good holistically. So yeah, if you want to play any of these decks, absolutely you're good to go. And with the lower power format, even having an unoptimized version of these decks tends to do pretty well. They're not insane, but at the very least you can play them at whatever rank you want, and you will do fairly well with them. Now, I'm going to show you a wind and a water deck, just in case you wanted to. Also, notably, this deck is fairly cheap. You still do need to craft a few cards, at the very least 2 URs, but for the most part, everything else is either a staple or, you know, NR or lower, SR or lower, sorry. So let's quickly talk about Lyrilisc. Now, notably, there's 2 ways of playing this. Now, I prefer to play it one way, but you can absolutely play it the other way, which is the OTK variant. Instead of playing a whole bunch of like going first cards, like the judgments and stuff like that, instead what you do is you just go second, you play a whole bunch of board breakers, which there's a ton available, right? Obviously, like evenly matched, well, you can't do evenly matched, but Lightning Storm and stuff like that are still available, so you can always do that. But the main point is, if you do the OTK, you basically do Assembled Nightingale, you put a whole bunch of materials onto it, you equip it with a card or activate something like Backup Rider, and then attack directly for a whole ton of damage, which is pretty easy to get overall. So you can either do that version, or you can do the other version, which is honestly probably worse. But I find it to be more fun. So, obviously we're playing the going first variant, which basically just relies on Lyrilisc putting out a whole bunch of bodies, and then you can either end on something like Assembled Nightingale to protect your monsters and basically just allow you to survive, or Ensemble to bounce back any of the special summoned monsters. The reason I don't necessarily prefer Ensemble as opposed to ending on Assembled Nightingale is due to the fact that Flunder is like everywhere, so Flu is, you know, just not gonna care about Ensemble like at all. So there's that. But yeah, let's just quickly give you the rundown of the card by card and the explanation, and then we'll hop into the second deck, which will be a water deck. So yeah, real quick, we have 3 apiece of basically all of the Lyriliscs: Cobalt Sparrow, which searches a card; Sapphire Swallow, which special summons another guy; Barrel Canary, which reborns from the grave as well as special summoning itself; Celestial Wagtail, which special summons, searches out a spell trap; and then Turquoise Warbler, which special summons itself and another guy as well. So yeah, there's that. We're only playing 2 of the Celeste Wagtail, mostly due to the fact that with this variant, we don't care as much about spell traps as we care about the like monsters and stuff like that. So Cobalt Sparrow is a bit more impactful. Then we're playing 2 Slower Swallow. I was also originally playing more cards for, well, I should say I was originally playing Droll, which was just useless, as well as a Nerval, right? Tri-Brigade Nerval, because you can search it, and then you could potentially go into some of these guys here, like the Link monsters. I never ended up using any Link monster at all, so I just cut him, and I was like, it's not really worth it. So there's that. And then as for the rest of the cards, it's pretty simple. We're running Jack in the Hand for extra consistency. We're running Bird Call, and that's kind of it. In terms of consistency, like, that's kind of all you need. The deck's pretty consistent, all things considered. So the rest of the cards are all just here to help you either set up a board or break one. So, you know, Raigeki, I guess 1-for-1 is in here for consistency alongside Prod of Prosperity. But yeah, Raigeki, Dark Ruler, Triple Tack, Imperm, Droplet, etc., right? So that's basically it. Let's hop into the replay and show you how this deck performed. Alright, so here we are going second. Now, I know I said that this is a deck that aims to go first, but honestly, it's still probably better going second. My opponent's going to start off here with the Deep Sea Diva, and they are going to go for the, or they're going to reveal that they're on Ice Barrier, and they're going to do the whole combo. If you don't know how the combo works, you can slow this down and watch it, but it's pretty simple. Oh, actually, I think they... No, they do it correctly. I remember this game. But yeah, they go for the Coral Dragon here, they go and then link all of those off into the White Aura Whale. White Aura Whale is literally just here to make a 10. So they go for the 8 and then into the 10, which is just Lancia. Now, obviously, there are more things that you can do. You can end on a few other things as well if you have either a better hand or if you're able to... well, no, it's mostly just if you have a better hand. It kind of depends on your hand how much you can kind of play through. So there's that. But yeah, Lancia is crazy. Once per chain, if a monster is special summoned, you can special summon an Ice Barrier monster from anywhere, and then you can also change an attack position monster to defense position. So do keep this secondary effect in mind, because it does matter. So, there you go. I draw a Droll, and as you can see, we also have the Nerdle in hand as well. Again, not really all that useful. We're going to start off here with the Jack in the hand. My opponent takes the barrel, or takes the Cobalt Sparrow, which I revealed, and I get the Turquoise Warbler? Don't do this. Take the Turquoise Warbler. I have no cards in. Like, this is just free. I don't take Cobalt Sparrow. I don't know what that does. Well, at the very least, take either Cobalt Sparrow or Turquoise Warbler. Don't take the Celeste Wagtail. Anyway, out comes the Turquoise Warbler. They're going to then special summon out at the Ryo, and I don't activate the effects of the Turquoise Warbler here because two things. One, it only special summons Lyrilisks. Okay? Keep that in mind. And two, it would have allowed them to summon another guy, which I don't want. I just don't want them to special summon another guy. So there's that. Anyway, we activate the effect of the triple attack, and we take their monster. Now, funny interaction here. Gotta tell you, we take the Ryo, but because of the way that this interacts, because this has resolved, and we get to take the monster, it is now on my side of the field for the resolution of the effect, which means that I do not have to discard for the effect to, or like, if the effect were to be negated, you know, either discard or have the effect negated, right? So, because Ryo is now on my field, my opponent didn't activate anything. Oh, no, never mind, it's monster effects. Forget I said anything. Just ignore that happened. It's fine. Anyway, so we summon out with the Sapphire Swallow, and we put into attack position the Recital Starling, and then we boost up the Lancia's effect, because if you don't know, Recital Starling does have an effect where all battle damage you take, or you take from battles involving this XYZ-summoned card is also inflicted to your opponent. Great. So here we grab the Cobalt Sparrow, and I just normal summon it, and then go for the Recital Starling. We're going to activate the effect of the Recital Starling, boosting up my opponent's monster, and then we are also going to attach another material, to which my opponent will go, hey, I'm going to special summon another guy here, which will force the Ryo. And then they're going to switch a card to defense. Now, had they kept this card, had this card been kept in attack position, we could have OTK'd here. So, there's that. We could have also tied, which is kind of funny. But beside the point, we're going to search another Barrel Canary here, just for follow-up for the following turn. Then we're going to special summon out here and grab the Cobalt Sparrow. Cobalt Sparrow is going to grab the Sapphire Swallow, and then we can go for the Assemble here. They also just actively choose not to activate the effect of the Lancia, which will cause them to lose the game here in a second. So there's that. We are going to go for the... we're going to crash here. Now, Assembled does have the effect. You take no battle damage, which means we're not going to take any battle damage, but my opponent is. So there's that. So we dealt a bit of damage with the attack directly. My opponent's going to go for the Imperm. Now, notably, this card and this card were both made with Cobalt Sparrow, which says a Wind XZ monster that was summoned using this card as material cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects. Fantastic! So this Imperm doesn't do anything. So we're going to crash. We're going to do 48. Now they're just on 2,000. All we have to do is survive a turn. I'm immediately going to go for the Assembled. My opponent is going to, obviously, negate, or attempt to negate, so we're going to discard instead, and we discard the Droll. My opponent here goes for Trishula, and honestly, this does suck, but we do have the ability to do so, especially since they did get rid of the Ryo. So, here's the thing. First of all, I can't die. I take no battle damage, right? I just take no damage, period. So I'm not dead, unless they have some weird alternate win con, which I'm pretty sure this is a loner deck, so likely they don't. Can't die. Just straight up. And second of all we have to do is contend with the Ryo, which we have Barrel Canary, which means on the first summon, basically, my opponent would have the ability to special summon him, and then from there, if I activate an effect, I'd have to discard a card. But I technically don't need to activate an effect, and you'll see why in a second. So they're going to go for the Gamer, and yeah, I can't die. But at this point, I'm pretty sure we have this game sealed. They're on 2,000 life points. There's not much more that they can do. I'm going to go for the Barrel Canary here. I don't know kind of why I do this the way that I do, but it's fine. Anyway, out comes the Ryo. I then normal summon the Cobalt Sparrow, give myself a little bit of target protection, and now we can attack 3 times for 800 damage each, and that is lethal. So my opponent concedes there. Good game. Alright, and here we are with the Water deck, which is Paleo. Hey, did you know all of these are water monsters? They're also traps, which means it doesn't really matter, because if something else summons a different type, it's allowed, right? If a different card summons a different type of monster, you can absolutely play it. So, there's that. Unless it's banned for some reason. So there's that. Anyway, yeah, let's quickly go through the card by card in the explanation. It's pretty much Paleo, that, as you've seen. The only addition that I'm playing is Magical Hats, because we gotta play something. There's a lot of cards that... There are some cards that I switched out. Most notably, I'm not playing Fiend Griefing. I feel like Fiend Griefing just isn't worth it, given the fact that you can't send the Whoozamo, what's it? The Fiend to the grave. You can't send the level 1, like, Backjack. Thank you. You can't send Backjack to the grave, so because of that, you're not able to really get anything out of the Fiend Griefing, except for maybe shuffling a card, which, not that big of a deal. And then, of course, we have to change a whole bunch of the monster lineup, so there's that. We're instead playing Deep Sea Diva, as well as Yamatako Orochi, which is just a way to synchro summon with level 8s, which is why we're playing the Changing. So there you go. And then, of course, we have the Laundry Dragon Maid. We also have a Deep Sea Sentry, which is pretty cool. What it does is, if it's special summoned, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard, then trigger a level 4 or lower water monster in your graveyard, and add it to your hand, which is okay. But for the most part, it's also used for this secondary effect here, where if it's sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster effect, which does also include a detach, you can then make your opponent banish a card from their hand face up. So that's something, right? It's mostly used for something like Obobinia. But yeah, it's not great. It's just like kind of ways to get into your cards, which is pretty nice. And then the rest of it is pretty standard. I'm playing 2 Reasoning because I honestly have just had terrible luck with this card. The 1 Grass, the 2 Trap Tantalizing Tune, as well as the 3 Time Tearing Morganite. We have Waboku, Magical Hats, Torrential, the Elemental Burst, Accumulated Fortune, Needlebug Nest, all of the good Paleos, I should say, Olenoids, Canadia, Dynamicious, Morella, and Leancolia. Then we have, of course, Rise to Full Height. We have triple Trap Trick. We have the 1 of Dragon Maid Tidying. Honestly, maybe played 2 of this, but probably not. The 2 Ice Dragon Prison, which is another card that we were just kind of playing to help us out. This card has actually been pretty nice for me overall. It's just like a good removal spell. And a way to like trigger Paleos and stuff. We have the triple Daruma and then the triple Rollback. And then the extra deck is pretty much just whatever we can fit in there. Not a lot of these are great. But notable inclusion, this guy, Mosquito, Ninja Mosquito. And then of course Changing, as I mentioned previously. So there's that. Let's hop into the replay and show you how this deck performs. Alright, so here we are going second, and yeah, let's just a pretty good hand. A lot of flipping cards face down. And it's a Link deck. Well, yeah, my opponent is playing Marincess, which honestly, props to you. I wouldn't play this without the trap card, but sure, why not? Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this deck is not very good without the monster negate. So there's that. Anyway, I mean, you can still make the big unaffected Aqua Argonaut, which is something, at the very least. So yeah. They set 1, pass. This is basically it, so I'm not really too worried. Also, I could activate the Reasoning here, but there's literally no reason to. Haha. Because my opponent's just gonna negate, and I don't want to do that. So we're just gonna mill, and then set 4. We drew Trap Trick, which is also really good here. Our mills were fairly decent. And then they give me a big Kaiju. I'm like, oh. First of all, what are you Kaijuing? And second of all, okay. Anyway, they normal summon the Pascalis, and they don't activate the effect, so I'm just like, okay, I'll just Canadia and put it face down. That seems pretty good for me. They're going to go to the battle phase. I'm just going to book the field. I don't know if this is necessarily the correct play, but, I mean, getting rid of Aqua Argonaut seems pretty good. And the reason I do this now is because, one, it's going to protect my monster, which is nice. They gave me a big monster. That's pretty good. But two, and more importantly, is the fact that this is now going to go away, and the big unaffected monster is now gone. So... that's pretty nice. And if I were to do it during their turn, they just negate. So there's that. Yeah, this card is actually really bad. It only is during the opponent's turn when you can negate. It's kind of funny. So there's that. They're going to grab back the Seahorse. I'm like, that's totally fine. They don't really have anything here, so they're just going to set 2 additional cards and pass. I'm going to go for the Trap Trick here, bring out the Morella. And at this point, this is pretty good for me. So out comes Morella. We're going to banish Morella to go for the other Morella, and then activate Morella again to send rollback, because I kind of got to get something in the grave. We draw Elemental Burst, which is not great, but that's okay. Out comes the Opabinha. We're going to activate its effect. We're going to grab up the Olenoids. This is a bit of a mistake. Realistically, I think what I should have done is grabbed the Dynamicious and just dealt with the field spell so that we could have put the Elemental Burst in the grave. So, bit of a mistake, but it's fine. And then it's called by. Cool. Alright. Anyway, I link off here for the Carabraster and send away their card to then go for the Dynamicious, which is pretty nice. They're also playing Marinta Snow, which is odd choice. Anyway, we're going to send away the field spell and grab up the Olenoids. I'm going to flip this card up and just attack in for a whole bunch of damage. Well, a whole bunch of 2,400 damage. It's not actually all that much. And we'll just pass the turn here. I'm feeling pretty good. So, there's that. And then, they moved my field. I'm sad. Anyway, out comes the Marinta Seahorse, and yeah, we're just gonna book that. And they walk over the Gamma Seal here, which is kind of weird, but sure. Because Olenoids is, like, way, way better for me. But I can't really do anything. I just go for the reasoning here. We hit Canadia, we hit another Destructive, we hit Magical Hats, which is actually very cool here. You'll see why in a second. We hit Tidying, which is nice, I guess. They did call 2, so no matter what we reveal here, it is going to go to the graveyard. Oh, this was also... I just realized, this was also before I changed the deck, and the only monster in my deck currently is Laundry Dragon Maid. So, don't expect to see, like, a Deep Sea Diva here. Anyway, so we're gonna mill, we're just gonna keep milling. There's nothing really too big of note. But we finally do hit the Laundry Dragon Maid, and we're just gonna try and special summon it to the Witch. Second called by, of course. Of course it was the second called by. Why would it not be? Anyway, we'll just shuffle back another Morella and set 1 and pass. That's kind of all that I can do, because my mills, I mean, they were decent, but they weren't insane. My opponent flipped up the Seahorse, and I'm like, no, let's get rid of that. So I'm going to special summon the Pascalis, because it actually gets them something, which is nice, and we're just going to get rid of the Seahorse, which also special summons out the Dynamicious. So there you go. They're going to grab a Kaiju here, which I'm like, no, don't do this. And then they, yeah, they go to the battle phase. I need to protect my Olenoids, so I go for the Magical Hats. That's right, baby! Magical Hats! And then, of course, they walk into the wrong card. So that's that. Now, Magical Hats is interesting, because, so as you saw, Carabraster banished itself, which says, if a set card would be destroyed, you can banish this card from field or grave instead, right? So, Magical Hats does say, at the end of the battle phase, the 2 cards chosen from the deck are destroyed at the end of the battle phase. However, it also then says, and cannot remain on the field except during this battle phase. So, I was like, do I just get a free monster? No. The answer to that question is no. The set card dies. It goes away, it's gone forever. Well, not forever, but like it goes to the grave, right? So, we didn't get the trap monster rise to full height. Would have been funny, but that was why I banished the Carabraster. I also was like, I don't really need this card. Like, it's not going to do anything, but there you go. We also put another rollback into the grave, so we spent a rollback for a rollback, which is pretty nice. Anyway, we're going to go for Trap Tantalizing Tune and put back the Morella, and then go for the rollback here in order to go for the Trap Trick so that we can get another guy onto our field. And the reason we are doing this the way that we are, we actually did this in the way that we did with the Trap Tantalizing Tune to go for the Morella here in particular. But we did this so that we can go for the Canadia, which now allows me to go for the Anomalocaris, which can then pop this guy, and then we can go to the battle phase. This does 2 things. 1, it protects me from another Kaiju, right, because I already have the Kaiju on my field, and 2, it gets rid of anything that they were to normal summon, or anything along those lines. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good here. They normal summon a guy, I immediately deal with it, and my opponent just passes a turn, and at this point the game is over. I think they're just wanting to get the reward. We draw a second Ice Dragon Prison, which is kind of funny, but yeah, just good game. Alright, so that's basically it for the Water and Wind event. And honestly, having played it, I haven't played it too much, but honestly, it's okay. It's kind of mid. There's not really anything too much that I enjoy about it, but it's just kind of like another festival. It's fine. It has some problems, but it's, it's decently fun. I think the biggest issue that I have is that it's, there's just not nearly as many decks as I would have liked. It definitely feels like such a very low amount of decks that you can play. First of all, Wind basically has like no decks that you can realistically play. There's like 3, maybe, right? It's like Lyralisk and Speedroid and Flunder, I guess, kind of. There's not really much. And then Water kind of doesn't have as many decks as well. There's not really a whole wide variety of Water or Wind decks just in general. So it just kind of feel like there's not many things to choose from. But at the very least, the power level of the game is pretty low, so the games are a little bit more back and forth. Unless Ice Barrier just floodgates you out of the game. So there's that. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy it. If you did, I like us very much. I appreciate it. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.